All right, hello and welcome, or should I say good day, and welcome back to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. My name is Scott. I'm joined by Lucas for the instant reaction review of SmackDown from Perth. And we have just finished the watch along experience. Thank you for everyone for tuning in there and for staying with us live or catching us on demand. We appreciate you. But we've got a fun show to talk about, Lucas. It ended with a big moment there. We'll kind of touch on it because I know some people are going to want to talk about it straight away, but then we'll go chronologically as well. But it ended with a big moment, just to kind of recap, of a fireball in the face. Yes, I am not talking ECW here. I am talking SmackDown coming to you live from Australia. Ended with a fireball in the face. So a big moment there. Again, we'll pick that back up in a little bit because there's some fun things to dive into there. But overall, first of all, before we dive into some of the segments, what did you think of the show, Lucas?
I thought it was a strong episode, to be fair. We've seen a lot of tease for stuff, and obviously we know what's coming up next. Obviously, following Crown Jewel this weekend, we've got obviously Summer's main event to look up forward to, and Survivor Series, WarGames coming in November. So we've seen a lot of stuff kind of take place, and it's actually quite a stacked episode of SmackDown. We saw. I guess we may start at the beginning. The current champion Cody Rhodes coming out. And he kicked off the show. The men's Crown Jewel Championship belt was in the ring with him, and he did a promo, which was quite default to begin with, but the crowd very much took over that segment, and we had a non PG moment take place midway through that promo. But it felt like there was a lot of life to this. Once it kind of got going, I felt. It started very, very just default for Cody. Very just default. He's going to say the same thing he always says. And we get the gist of this. And I think, to be fair, with this match in particular, and we'll move on to this more in the Crown Jewel kickoff, I guess, the video package they've done I think they've done the match more justice than anything they can do face to face to the actual match, in my opinion. But I thought it was nice seeing that crowd interaction and them acknowledge it, which is something which, to be real, it wouldn't have happened in years gone past. Cody wouldn't be forced to basically just stick to the promo.
Yeah. He went off script, definitely, and like you say, I don't think he's going to get punished for that.
No, I don't think so. I think it's great, nice, fun moment. It will get shared, around quite a lot.
Yeah.
Potentially, we'll see other. Well, I dread to think what chance they might be staying in the UK.
Well, the thing is, so if you're unaware, if you didn't watch it, basically the crowd will call in Seth a W word, which we will not be saying here, but a word very popular in Australia as it is here in the UK. Cody tried to get Michael Cole to say it, and bless him, he couldn't understand them. I was really hoping someone on the earpieces was saying to Michael Cole, this is what they said, just repeat it, and they were cool with it, because I reckon even Barrett to do it must have got the okay to do it as there's a fine, we'll take it. This is a viral moment, as you say. Sadly, Michael Cole didn't do it, much like he didn't do the shoey, which was a shame as well on the kickoff. But Barrett did express what the fans had been saying, and it was a nice little moment, as you say, just kind of off script. But started paint by numbers from Cody Rhodes, but I think in the end he kind of got across the point in the right way. Strange to have the omission of Seth Rollins here, but if he was there, it wouldn't have given that kind of natural part to breathe, let's be honest. So probably a good thing, and it plays into the fact that he walked out of the kickoff without saying anything anyway. So again, we'll touch on Crown Jewel and what it means for that, and predictions when we get to our Crown Jewel weekend kickoff show, and of course on the build-up show as well, which I appreciate. You may be watching this live or on demand, or you may be watching it on the replay segment of the build-up as well. So we'll talk about it there. But a fun way to start the show, and then we went straight into a very, very fun opening match. Lucas, actually, before we get to that, we had a backstage segment as well where Cody is walking backstage. He bumps into Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu basically says, I'm coming after that title, and Cody acknowledges that. Post Crown Jewel, we'll see if we actually get to something like that. But Drew McIntyre takes out Jacob Fatu, and this continues to be a theme throughout the show. We see that pick up later on. Then we do go to the match, though, and it is Sami Zayn's Open Challenge, of course, the US Open Challenge. We've seen 5 of these previous. I know that, thankfully, because Sami said to the camera, I'm 5-5. Not that match there. Let's get to the correct one there. Sami Zayn, we'll get to that one in a little bit. Sami Zayn going up against a mystery opponent, and the mystery opponent was the returning Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, I was very happy to see this, Lucas, because I'm a big Nakamura fan. But you'll know from being on the streams with me in the past, My big concern with Nakamura is that they give him something, he wins a title, and then he goes nowhere. That's exactly what happened last time around. So I was already feeling like I kind of didn't want him to win the title, even though I'm a big fan of him, because I think it kind of, weirdly enough, puts a ceiling on him that I don't think he's ever going to break through in WWE, unfortunately, anymore, as far as getting to that main event scene and becoming champion there. But for what it's worth, a fun return, a really, really fun match that ends in chaos. Before we get to the chaos and the way it ends, we'll legit think in a match and a reveal that it was Nakamura in the first place.
Yeah, it was done very well. Obviously, they've teased Nakamura being in the background of the segments the past few weeks. But last time we kind of saw him in action, he was, of course, a kind of samurai warrior version of this character.
Yeah.
Slower entrance, different theme. I thought, to be fair, it was done really, really well. But it just seemed that sadly people just go missing in this company, and he went missing for lengthy stretches, even when he was champion, and then just lost the belt back to LA Knight, and then kind of got forgotten about for months. But he's back, and it was a very good moment. Hearing that entrance again, seeing that entrance again, and the fans are very, very receptive to him. He seemed very beloved by the Australian fans. It was a fantastic match, genuinely a fantastic match. Obviously, it kind of started slow, and they were finishing around nice little bits. But it kind of, when it really got going. It just made like very little things seem important with this. Like the whole, he did the whole build up around the Kinshasa. I thought was perfect. How he did it. He did one, and my favourite part of that sequence where he did one, and Sami Zayn, the force of it basically drove Sami Zayn out of the ring, and then they did Sami Zayn doing the suplex and a loop kick on the outside, throwing Shinsuke back in, then just about getting back in himself, and then getting hit with another Kinshasa, and that led into a foot on the rope with the cover. All because Shinsuke, because he's now back to the performer Shinsuke, he's covering like the performer. So he's doing the kind of, he's not hooking the leg, he's being show-offy. And so I like things like that when they don't insult our intelligence. It made sense because, Shinsuke, the performer, he does his performative move, being the Kinshasa, does a performative pin, and it's his own doing why he didn't win the US Championship from that manoeuvre anyway. And Sami Zayn gets a foot on the rope. We then saw a little bit more, and then we'll get to obviously the big angle. But the actual match that was presented in front of us was very, very good.
Really, really enjoyable. Almost PLE level when we kind of talk about it in that sense.
I think it was. I think it the return to PLE as well. And that would have been
I mean,
winner potentially at PLE.
I think I'm in two minds on the presentation of Nakamura, because I love this version of Nakamura, but I also really like the reinvention of Nakamura that we got last time around.
We never saw enough of it, did we? Really?
I know it's what started to win me over. I was like, you know what? Maybe it will be different this time. Maybe that's why they're giving him a mid-card title this time, because they're going to make it matter and whatever else. And maybe the world title run's never going to happen, so therefore this best we can get. And then that kind of faded. And again, there were rumors as to why. And if it was something personally related to Nakamura's life, then fair enough. But I was surprised that they didn't go back to that. Again, happy to see, but it wasn't like it'd been that character for a long time. So it really is a shame. But look, always great to get the nice pop. It's a fun song to sing along to, don't get me wrong. And it was a nice little callback to his debut in NXT back in 2016 as well. Again, a match against Sami Zayn. So great dance partners, we'll say. They really worked well together. And they did a good job at making me feel like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know who's going to win this one. And the fans really behind, of course, the return of Nakamura, and you want to be there for history. So there was almost a kind of, murmurs of boos when Sami did get the rope as well. So that was quite interesting to see. But then before they had the opportunity to really get annoyed at not seeing a title change, it was kind of saved in a way, if you will, because of that, but ruined at the same time because you get the MFTs getting involved. Now, it wasn't just the MFTs showing up as we know them today. They showed up with full face paint, and that's because first of all, we saw a hooded figure in face paint being a return of Tama Tonga. Very, very pleased to see this. He looked like a badass getting in the ring, and it was great because he had the hood up. I wasn't sure if it was a mask. I kind of thought it looked like his old face paint. And then the way he moved on the side of the apron and his hands started, and I thought, that's who I think it is. And he lifts his head and you see it is, kind of geared up in the way that he used to be, as a member of the Gorillas of Destiny back in New Japan and Ring of Honor. And it really did hark back to those days. And I think it's a lovely kind of opportunity to refresh the MFTs even further. I've said over the past few months that I'm really pleased that they don't just feel like the bloodline anymore. They're not the bloodline. Like, that's over. They're not the fake bloodline. They are Solo's MFTs, and they're basically more of a mixture of what their actual characters were before. As I say, you got the Gorillas of Destiny kind of homage, or if you will, in there as well, because it weren't just Tama Tonga. Tonga Loa, and JC Mateo showed up, all kind of kitted out, looking the same as the MFTs for Solo, who then comes in kind of suave, cockily on the ring apron, makes his way in the ring, kind of makes a statement. Now, it's not the end of the MFTs and SmackDown. We'll get to them in a moment. But what were your thoughts on the new presentation for the MFTs and their kind of returning member of Tama Tonga?
I liked everything about it, minus one thing. I don't know about using the hidden blade as a move here. I think obviously it's a move which is used by a very popular wrestler on the other channel. I don't know why they choose to kind of do that. Because they must know. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's not like,
you could also say though,
AEW Dark 3 years ago.
Yeah, but you've also got the buckshot lariat being used by
Logan Paul and so
Logan Paul.
Yeah, that's the only thing for me where I was like,
yeah, I get you. It makes you think of another show rather than what's going on in the moment. But maybe that won't in the future.
Yeah. I think in terms of the MOT, they need this presentation because I think they were at risk of becoming a little bit goofy, which is the direction they kind of wanted to go in. And don't be wrong, I'm all for goofiness existing in wrestling. I think that, to be fair, it's actually one element that WWE is actually missing quite a lot now. But I think you can't have goofy in the same thing of, Solo Sikoa walking like a Bond villain. I
like Goofy Solo. If there's a way to do Goofy Solo at times, because he is looking different to the rest of the crew, but his crew are just badass. Maybe that's a bit more Dr. Evil than Dr. No, but yeah. But
I think they needed this because we're getting onto obviously we touched upon what happened later on in the show involving MFTs. But I think they did need a more serious presentation because of that.
Yeah.
But I thought it was done quite well. I'm happy with what we saw. In between all this, or just after this, I don't know whether it was before, in between or afterwards, because there was a kind of backstage bits and pieces that took place. But we did see Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre kind of renew their feud. This followed, though, a segment between Jacob Fatu and Cody Rhodes, where Jacob very clearly said that I am going to be next, essentially, in line for this championship. Because, I guess in a way, and we might have touched upon this in the Crown Jewel kind of kick-off bit we do, they've created a de facto situation where, okay, it actually makes sense for there to already be a next in line because there's not a championship match, at this PLE.
Yeah, they need to.
I've got to worry about. I'm gonna face Cody if you're champion. It's like, well, Cody is champion.
Yeah, true. It's just when you're done with his business, I'll be there basically.
Yeah. But in between all that, we did obviously see Jacob 2, Andrew McIntyre, collide backstage, and they've set that match up for next week's SmackDown, which is not in Australia, up in San Jose, California.
A lot of boos for that one.
So we saw all that taking place backstage. All in though, I thought that opening segment was done very well. The opening match story was done very well, following a very hot opening segment, and I was quite happy.
Yeah, as you say, the next thing we saw was the continuation of the Drew McIntyre, Jacob Fatu thing. Just getting some comments here. Aiden's in the house. Always good to see you. Aiden says, "Is SmackDown finished yet?" It has finished, buddy. We are recording this at the moment for the instant reaction review, but it's still part of the same stream, so you can go all the way back if you're going to tune in now and still use us as your watch-along experience. Again, appreciate everyone that joined us for the watch-along itself. You're now watching the instant reaction review of SmackDown. We don't often get to do watch-alongs because, we're here in the UK, so these shows usually end at this sort of time, but in the AM. Not in the PM. It's been fun to watch SmackDown at 1 PM here in the UK, as we'll do the same for Crown Jewel, and we'll be able to do the same for Raw as well. Again, it's at a reasonable time for us. But again, thank you to everyone that's tuned in for the watch along and here for the instant reaction review. And as Lucas said earlier on, we'll be back live in just a few hours' time, actually, for our weekend kickoff show for Crown Jewel Perth, where we'll break down the card and talk all things Crown Jewel as far as predictions go. But let's kind of keep with SmackDown for the moment and talk about the kind of last stop before Crown Jewel. Of course, we got the go home SmackDown and a lot of great stories coming out of it, and leaning into Crown Jewel's matches. And of course, we kind of talked about a little bit already the Crown Jewel Championship. On the women's side of things, we saw both champions in World Champions at least. Tiffany and Stephanie teaming up against US Champion Julia and Kiana James. What were your thoughts on this one, Lucas?
Yeah, like I said, it was nice to see Julia. I think that it does just beg one question though, like what is next for her in the Women's United States Championship picture, and also better question actually maybe what even next for Tiffany in that title picture. Those are the gaping holes here. But in terms of the match we saw, it was solid. It was nice seeing Stephanie and Julia go, work together again. Obviously, following a very good feud down NXT, and again we spoke about on the show itself, but said it's just bonkers how both these ladies, but particularly Stephanie, have such a meteoric rise. And yeah, I'm actually with you. You said something. You kind of said it on the show, but I'm going to say that she's within the top 3 acquisitions this company's made in the last 5 years. I think I think in terms of, and just how it was, when you think these big impact moves, are about, what all this women's division looked like without her. And I think there's a gaping hole in the last years of action because they've literally given her so much. And yeah, I think it was good. I'm glad they didn't do the thing that we kind of alluded to on the show as well. They didn't do the whole not getting along kind of stuff. They just let it be 2 champions who are happy to kind of work together, put the differences aside, ahead of tomorrow's contest. And I will get to my predictions for that, because I think something might be happening, at the show itself, to Crown Jewel match.
Yeah.
But for what we got in this tag match was perfectly acceptable. Kiana James, as we predicted as well, took the pin. During this, I don't think she loses anything from that, as she's positioning herself very much as quote unquote the help, essentially. And so she's not necessarily she's fine to be taking a pin here. But I thought the match we saw was fine. It was good. I think it was a good decision that Stephanie went straight into the Devil's Kiss. On Kiana James, I think it was. From off the bat, because it's a big high pop, high energy move. The crowd really love it, and Stephanie, everything about her is just screaming like she's a star. Everything about her, and I think again we're going out later on for tomorrow.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, there's so much to break down, and these streams are fun. But we do want you to join us on the weekend kickoff show today, and also on a build-up show on Saturday as well, where we really will dig into the kind of the feuds themselves, the last-minute kind of rumors, and all that kind of stuff as well. So stay tuned for that good stuff. But yeah, I agree with you. It was the right move to make the non-champion take the pin, essentially, because again we had the US champion in there as well, so it's probably the character that could take the pin as far as that goes as well. Next up, though, we continue with the theme of champions in the women's division, because we saw Zarya and Sol Ruka backstage, and then they had a little bit of a conversation with the women's tag team champions of Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, hashtag not friends and all that good stuff. But they are getting on very, very well. They are still the champions, and they basically had a nice little thing that I don't think compromised either of their characters or either team's character, by basically being respectful. You guys are doing good, but hey, we're so much better, and if you want to challenge, bring it, sort of thing. We don't know when that bringing it is at the moment. We were laughing on air about it possibly being maybe because they didn't want to get the fans in Australia booing again to say, oh, next week, especially to have an Australian, be taken away from them almost. We don't know when that match is going to happen, but that's what they're kind of setting up, essentially. Straight after that, though, we went into another tag team match, one that was advertised and was delivered upon, and that was the Street Profits going up against the Wyatt Sicks, trying to get the tag team gold back. Now, this is a match we've seen quite a lot recently, as we touched on the watch along, and we were really kind of wondering where did they go with this. The fans in Perth had been treated to some great things already on SmackDown, and it continues for this show, as we'll get to with the rest of the stream. But we weren't sure, would they get a title change? Would they get the long-awaited, rumoured turn from one of the members of the Street Profits? They got neither. But what they did get was quite a swerve in itself. First of all, a fun match, got to say that. It was quite well put together. But it's another one that ends in shenanigans, and I know sometimes that can be a bit too much, Lucas, but I'm going to let him off on this occasion because I think it was well done. It ended with the MFTs showing up and going after the winners of the match, I must say, the Wyatt Sicks. Now, there was a notable kind of absence here, and we're not sure at this stage why that was. Uncle Howdy, Bo Dallas, wasn't in attendance, it would seem. They made the entrance without him. Nikki Cross took on the leader of the pack, if you will, role from the absent Bo, and was holding the lantern, did all that kind of business, got involved on the outside and kind of tried to attack B-Fab. And then at the end of it was the representation for the group who stepped up in front of the leader of the MFTs, face to face with Solo. Now, if it's simply Bo Dallas isn't around this week for whatever reason, and let's hope it isn't anything personal or anything like that. If it is just that, and they needed, as I said earlier on the stream, something to kind of be that visual for next week of like they went face to face, but then you had the leaders face to face. If there is no leader in Bo Dallas, Uncle Howdy, as you rightly said on the stream itself, Nikki Cross is a pretty good replacement. So what were your thoughts on the match and kind of where it ended and what it kind of led to? Because it was not relating to Street Profits at all in the end.
Yeah. So this seems to be one of those bigger picture moments potentially where we're going to get something big between the MFTs and the Wyatts, which I'm here for. I think that we did touch upon in the match actually. I don't think Eric Rowan's had a match since this whole comeback's happened, and they haven't found a way to utilise obviously even Nikki Cross in the ring as well. But we just made the question obviously with the MFTs not having a female member. We have to imagine Nikki Cross wouldn't be maybe in the ring as part of anything they do going forward, which sucks because I think she's very underrated. But the match itself, look, like I touched upon, I think that they just work well together, these two teams, and they were tasked to put on a good match, and it just seemed that they have again parked the Street Profits thing, but it may lead to something down the line, but it would have felt. I think we're always just geared up to it always being like in these big championship matches where it falls apart. But I guess the bigger picture is, the MFTs against the Wyatts. And we've seen this previously, like, when we had, when the Wyatts were doing stuff against like the ECW originals a few years ago, or when they even teased the most big tease they did tease, when the Wyatts went against the Shield, which was huge, that was a huge thing. And I think that the fact they've got so many groups, it only makes sense that the groups kind of do face off each other against each other kind of thing at some point. Because it seems that sometimes there's not that connectivity. Because even like you take Raw, Judgment Day, and Division, there's no mention of the other ones and what they're doing. Which may be intentional, but it is just a bit weird, particularly when you have to imagine that most groups form because they have championships in mind, and if championships in another group, why does it automatically mean you don't go after it?
Yeah, and if you're in another group, just like if you're a wrestler or that's solo or a tag team, you're looking at those comparisons all the time. So I want to be the best solo wrestler. I want to be the best tag team. So like, imagine being in the Judgment Day, and people always bring up the Wyatts or the MFTs. Just thinking in character now, you are always going to think we're the best group in WWE. Yeah. So at some point, you need to face off and prove that, right?
Yeah, but that's not. I think what makes it interesting too is that the Wyatts, they're baby. But we keep forgetting that they are baby faces. They are booked to baby faces. And obviously they've got the big Halloween deal this year, haven't they, with Universal? And I think that's probably adding to their popularity at the moment as well. So they'd be silly not to present them as baby faces going forward. And this is the way to basically make sure they are baby faces, because the MFTs are very much villains.
Maybe that's where we go with this, because the MFTs attacking more so Sammy, but of course Nakamura in that as well. We're thinking, could that be a WarGames thing? Is it is it against the Bloodline again? Or is this it? Or maybe not. Maybe because, as you say, the Halloween thing, we've got Saturday Night's main event is November the 1st. So very much in Halloween season, if not on the day itself. The day before, actually, the SmackDown is going to be in the same place. That's going to be on Halloween. So there will be a Halloween SmackDown this year, you would imagine, theme-wise. So maybe this just goes to that. And then the MFTs do go back to the Sami Zayn thing for Survivor Series.
Potentially, but I mean, I'm more inclined and interested in them not going backwards. I mean, the problem we've had in the last couple of years is they keep going backwards. It's going to get to the point where I just feel we're going to walk into Brock and Roman being at main event wrestling again.
God.
I mean, it's it gets
Talk about going back to the well, yeah.
Where we're going to end up again.
Yeah.
And I just think we need to stop doing that. We need to embrace the fact that we've got new people, we've got like new storylines that we can tell, and kind of just go with it. And I would prefer if the MFTs take the tag belts over Solo getting the US belt back. I think that'd be a better presentation.
Yeah.
I think Sami Zayn's doing a great job at the moment. I potentially see what they might do is a tag, because obviously they've returned Shinsuke basically as a de facto babyface in this. They could do the first tag match of the MFTs could be against Sami Zayn and Shinsuke Nakamura potentially.
Yeah.
Which then could end either. Probably does need to end with the MFTs winning. Most likely pinning Shinsuke, I guess. But then obviously after the match, having the Wyatts kind of come out, to not make the save per se, but to get in their face, and that could be the setup. That'd be enough basically to set up the match really, and whatever it's going to be. Whether I don't know how. Again, it's a weird one because there's 5 members of MFTs, and there's obviously 5 people in the Wyatts. But obviously one of them is Nikki Cross. But there definitely should be at least a 4-on-4. I think that exists as part of this.
Yeah.
We shall see. But what I like this is good because even if you then break it down, like you've got a few weeks to go. Like you could even break this down into either smaller tag matches or even into singles matches, and so you can have the stables represented, and not run out of fresh matches for a few weeks. Just give them TV time. Like it's
and it's a great example of like people that haven't really interacted together at all. Yeah. So whether you do it 1-on-1, 2-on-2, or the stable versus a stable, like you said, there's a lot of. Everything is fresh within this, and if they do somehow bring a woman into it,
wing gimmick, and it's like will be some sort of street fight, some type of thing.
Yeah,
but it's a nice fun match. It's a nice, just fun thing to do. That will exist. It gets you, like I said, it gets you fresh matches, fresh faces on the show. It's not involved. I'm saying the tag titles are involved, but it involves the tag titles. But actually, it's actually even better than involved tag belts actually, because the tag belts. Do need to be featured as well as obviously the other belts. And then you can just keep Sami Zayn doing what he's doing. I think he's very much one of the best parts of the show at the moment, doing open challenges and stuff and building up to, someone who to answer that challenge and to win the championship off him, which is what I would be. That should be the end goal really with that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because before you came on air on the watch along, I was saying the same thing. I was like, do we end this with an open challenge? Do we end it with a surprise opponent open challenge, or does he lose the title in a feud like you normally would? Do you think it would be in a surprise and open challenge sort of thing?
I think it's got an open challenge.
Yeah, to keep up the theme of what this whole, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You put this risk out there. At some time, it's going to bite you, and you're going to lose because of it. Yeah. Okay.
I think it's 1 or 2 people.
Who do you reckon?
See, I've. He keeps getting swerved this, but
he's on the other show, mate.
No, I'm between 1 or 2 people. I think it's probably the one I think it's less likely now, just because they've had a long time to call him up and they haven't. Was Tony D'Angelo.
Yeah.
But I know he was flirting more towards the Raw brand of things.
Okay. I think I know where you're going with the other one now.
You know where I'm going. It's got Obafemi.
I should have guessed. Yeah, I can see it. Actually.
Sami Zayn's a perfect person for him to debut against as well.
Yeah.
Selling the story.
I can see that.
He just works. Well, he just works well against anyone anyway. He's fresh off such a good run on NXT. I think he won't, again, like I said about Stephanie being one of those handful. He's there. Trick's there. Just people who they're already there. Like, the crowd are already behind him. They already will want it, and it will just create like a different vision because you found a rarity in Oba where you found like a big guy who would do all the big spots but can work your big matches, which they've not really had. Do you know what I mean? Because Braun Strowman, big guy, could do big spots, but you give him 15-20 minutes to pay with you, like he can't do it. But Obafemi, like he's proven, like the amount of people he's faced.
Yeah, I do wonder as well if they also benefit from, because I think the connection between NXT and WWE's main roster isn't quite what it was when NXT was the black and gold brand, as far as people knowing who people are, because it's not as watched as it once was.
Yeah.
But I do think that because of Obafemi's look, he's the one person you could probably bring in from NXT. Even if you've never seen him before, you go, "Oh, I believe this." He could beat Sami Zayn on his debut. Do you know what I mean? Like that, because they could hype him up. Look at this big guy who's champion in NXT, and like Michael Cole sells it or whoever it is on commentary. sells it to you, and even if you're unaware of Obafemi, it will do wonders essentially, and I think it'll still work.
For me, he's one that you just cannot flub. Like, we touched upon earlier, obviously, something we forgot to mention actually that happened on SmackDown. They did feature The Miz doing a promo based
that was the next thing actually, yeah.
And Kamala Hayes is one where I think they have just kind of let slip a little.
100%.
Well, not a little, a lot. Like,
100%. Even this we talked about earlier on, they pulled the trigger, seemingly at least at this moment in time, too early on that split. But yeah, let's kind of get to that. Actually, there was a backstage segment, Kathy Kelly chatting to The Miz, and The Miz basically prolonged that feud a little bit more by basically saying, I can't believe I saw something in you and you decided to turn on me. So we didn't really get much progression there. It was kind of again trotting to the next spot. They also showed a kind of recap of what happened. Again, we alluded to earlier on a kickoff where Seth Rollins just walked out of the Crown Jewel kickoff show, didn't actually speak. So again, we'll hold back our opinions on Seth Rollins and what it means for his kind of vision and that match when we do our weekend kickoff show, and of course on the build-up show on the day of the PLE itself as well. Let's move into what was the main event. Again, we weren't really sure because they kind of hinted that we might see this women's tag team title match, but no, we didn't. But we did get we still don't know when that is at the moment. But we did. As a main event, though, we got something that was advertised at least, and it definitely, became known it was the main event when the clock was ticking down. We got a very fun one. It was a last man standing match. In many ways, paint by numbers, really, when it comes to last man standing. You mentioned it on the watch along. There are the kind of, routine things that they do in last man standing matches before they get to the eventual 9s and eventually the 10. But a fun match, typical stuff, gimmick, walking around the ring, using all different kind of weapons, some really, really fun spots. Damian Priest hitting 2 razor's edges on the announce table where Black, I believe, got off at 8 and then 9, just that little bit more, and used the table to kind of get leverage, as we kind of talked about on the show itself. They went up by the stage, didn't do much around it, but at least they kind of featured it a little bit. And just a lot of stuff outside the ring. It ended, though, with a fantastic spot where they were fighting. And we debated, didn't we, about what we thought the end could be. And I had predicted, a big spot where they go through some sort of like production thing. That's what happened. But it wasn't as straight cut as that, guys. They had a bit of flair to it, kind of pardon the pun. They were fighting right next to the crowd, and we'll say it now in our instant kind of reaction, even though it's a reaction review, when we were actually instantly talking about it as it happened. You'll see that me and Lucas were a little bit concerned that maybe it was a little too close to the fans because there was a fire spot. And but you'll also notice that when we were talking about it before the spot happened, Lucas in particular noticed that some of the fans were very animated, basically. And then after the spot, when I said I was concerned that they did that so close to the fans, we started looking a little bit further, and the fans looked very, very animated, and were all wearing conveniently positioned merch as well. So I'm assuming they were all plants, Lucas, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it was an incredible visual, and so they should have been plants, by the way. I really hope they are plants, as in planted members of the audience, not plants themselves, for anyone that didn't watch it and doesn't know what I'm talking about. It's not an Alan Titchmarsh thing or anything like that. But yeah, basically what happened was Zelina Vega come out of the audience. So again, probably another reason why it was plants, because she just walked casually in front of all these fans. Climbs over, convinces Damian Priest not to do it. And they've got history, right, as well. I'm thinking on there, they had a bit of... I'm sure there was a bit of history between... Am I thinking...
Who?
Damian Priest, yeah. Did they have something on... anyway, maybe not. But the point was... We now see on air she's aligned with Aleister Black, and I'm very excited about where we can go with that in the future, because Aleister's return wasn't quite hitting the way I hoped it would. So they pulled the trigger on this, which I'm happy to see. Zelina come out slightly more kind of vampiress looking in her makeup, kind of aligned a little bit more with Aleister Black. She's always been alternative looking, don't get me wrong, but this really kind of felt a little bit more aligned with Aleister Black's character. He was getting something, as you rightly pointed out, from her boot, it seems, and then played the old kind of typical, I'm just a poor little bad guy, please don't attack me, Damien, before throwing a flame into the face of Damian Priest. And I've got to watch it back, but from watching it live and the quick replay they showed, it looked like it actually hit his face. Like, I know these are carefully done and it's kind of just tricks and stuff like that, but these things can go wrong. So I hope he doesn't have singed eyebrows, is what I'm saying, or anything beyond that. But Yeah, a very striking visual to end the show, and one that I felt was a great way to end a really fun show, and also just made me straight away go, "What happens next?" And that's what you
Yeah.
want in wrestling, right? That's what you want in storytelling. So yeah, what were your thoughts on the kind of the match itself and this kind of crescendo we got at the end with the flamethrower?
Yeah, look, the match itself, it did at first. It was playing very much by the numbers for these kind of things. Obviously, like my Sunday matches in WWE, kind of tend to go a familiar way, and we got that quite a lot. I like the stage and the interaction with the stage. I believe that most likely going to be cut off for the international broadcast because it was during the advert.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, there's some nice bits in there. They use the steps quite a lot in there as well. Doing the table spot twice was cool, and I do like the fact they're not doing as many table breakages as they used to. It does make a bigger deal of them when they do happen, and we did see kind of sort of table spot. To be fair, the finish was basically through tables or through
True.
whatever it's meant to be. But I thought that because I'm thinking of this because obviously during gaps in the broadcast, we did get a couple of adverts pop up, and during one of them, obviously, Zelina Vega was in them. In one, I wasn't say it on the stream, but I just we moved on to other stuff by then. But I was thinking, what's happened to her? She kind of was US champion, and then decided she didn't want to be it anymore. Basically, just didn't want to fight for it anymore. And then, but yeah, it seems like this is the reason why, and I think this is the right way forward. But we have got a situation now where it's 2-0 against Damian Priest, so you have to imagine there will be a third match. Potentially.
Yeah.
Damian Priest would most likely be the victor of, but I think it's positioned Aleister Black in a very, very good spot here.
Yeah. He can afford to lose now.
Yeah. But I think that we're now building. Yeah, if we build up a third one, Priest probably should win that.
Yeah.
A bit of cred back, so to speak. And I think it makes sense aligning Zelina with her husband. Because I'm not the biggest fan of Aleister Black's promos, but I think Zelina Vega is very, very good on the microphone. And another thing that this feud hasn't gotten enough stuff in front of the crowd. A lot of it's been obviously backstage segments and all that kind of stuff. And I think Zelina Vega is someone who you can definitely position to do a promo in front of the crowd.
Yeah.
Would have been her strongest point. And potentially, you know what? It does have the Karrion Kross Scarlett vibes.
It does.
Considering obviously, what had happened with that. It does kind of fall into that kind of vibe. And so it'll be interesting seeing how they present it going forward. But yeah, I thought it was a good way to end SmackDown. But similar to Raw, which I also felt was a good episode, it's just not the best go home show, and then in a weird way, but it seems like go home shows are now potentially I don't know if the company even see them as go home shows anymore. Potentially they just don't, because it's definitely different from what we're used to. We saw 1, 2, 3, I think 3 wrestlers apart of tomorrow's show.
Yeah, true. And you mentioned it earlier on a watch along. We've kind of talked about it before, but they almost feel like day ones of some of these PLEs. So, like I said, it was different stories. Yeah, there was a bit of selling Crown Jewel. Don't get me wrong, but it felt like a very good standalone SmackDown in itself. So that kind of brings us towards the end, actually. So we should probably get to rating the show. Ash says, is it over yet? Yes, SmackDown is in the books. We are here just reviewing it now. If you haven't watched it, watch it, guys, and use us as your watch-along experience as well. If you didn't join us for the watch-along, go back to the beginning of that stream, line us up, and we'll kind of talk you through it anyway. But yeah, a very, very fun SmackDown. If you had to rate it, what would you give it, mate? Out of 10. I'm going to go early with this one. I think I'd give it probably an 8. I think it was one of the better SmackDowns I've seen in a long, long time. And I'm very, very pleased to say that for an international show, especially.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I'm going to say 7.5, 8. I think it was a strong show, very strong crowd. I kind of just wish we either saw another kind of G for Crown Jewel in ring, or just like another match. I think that would also have been a good thing. I think having 4 matches is still a bit, for me, it's still a bit like, come on.
Yeah.
We've got a big roster here to feature. But yeah, no, it was good. I mean, I can't say there was like a bad match or a bad segment, really. Just kind of wish we tweeted on something else, in front of the crowd. I'm not too much of a fan of everything being backstage. I think, people are paying a lot of money now. and I don't want to be watching a screen when I'm sat there paying, God knows what it is, even for nosebleeds.
Mm.
But no, I think in terms of the episode standalone, that I will actually go 7.5 because I think that the episode alone probably deserves like an 8 or maybe an 8.5. But I think just it being a go-home episode.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
But
you're going to see it tomorrow.
True.
Just lowers it a little bit from it. But I think a very strong episode. And just for context, guys watching, I think literally anything SmackDown's done pretty much post-Mania to now, outside of a couple of episodes, has pretty much been below 5 for me. So, yeah, it's not been good.
Yeah. So it's a big jump in quality.
It's a big jump in quality, and Raw as well. I think it's been really good the past couple of weeks.
All right, well, that has been our instant reaction review of Friday Night SmackDown. Again, thank you to everyone that tuned in for this, whether you're watching live on the end of the watch-along experience or if you've been watching on demand. We really do appreciate you. Again, if you are in our live time zone, you'll know that is, in the UK at least, 3:34 at the moment. So we are an hour and 25 minutes away from our weekend kickoff show. You'll notice we've tried our best not to talk predictions for Crown Jewel itself. That's because we're going to do that on its very own show. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned to that. If you're watching on the build-up show, because this will be part of that as a repeat as well, stay tuned because the weekend kickoff show will also be part of that. But also have a live section as we always do for the build-up, where we get you guys and us hyped up and in the mood, talking last-minute rumors and predictions and things like that as well. But that's it for the SmackDown from Perth. Again, it's not over in Australia, though. We've got Crown Jewel and Monday Night Raw, and we're going to be covering Crown Jewel particularly in depth as well. So again, stay tuned for our weekend kickoff show, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much.